As overthinking basketball fans, we love obsessing over seemingly simple questions, and the steady onslaught of Giannis trade rumors has us debating a new one in our group chats. What does failure mean in sports?
Do you view this season as a failure?
Oh my God.
At first, the answer seems clear. Losing is failure in sports. And yeah, over the course of one game, that's true. But what about over the course of a season or an era? When you start extending the verdict beyond one contest, the question gets more and more difficult because the definition of failure in sports isn't static. It's context dependent, and the context changes every week. Just look at the Spurs. At the beginning of the year, 50 wins and a playoff berth seemed like a reasonable goal for them. Then they won 60 games. So our expectations changed. We wanted to see them in the conference finals now. Then they won those. And all of a sudden, it was championship or bust for a team whose best player is 22 years old. Saying the 2026 Spurs failed seems ridiculous. But given all the twists and turns of the season, and even the finals themselves, it was hard not to feel that way at the end. So what about Giannis? Now that his time with the Bucks has really come to an end, how do we determine whether or not 2 MVPs and 1 championship is a successful tenure for a player of his caliber? Truthfully, that might be too big of a question for one video, and looking at all the individual nuances of his time in Milwaukee would force us to be more long-winded than we already are. But if we divide his career into chapters and judge them based on the unique set of parameters that define them, we might end this video with a better understanding of what we should be looking for.
You asked me the same question last year, Eric. Okay, do you get the promotion every year on your job? No, right? So every year you work is a failure. Yes or no? No. Every year you work towards something, towards a goal.
Since those grainy clips of a teenager dominating fast breaks in Greece first started circling, no one needed to be convinced about Giannis Antetokounmpo's potential. He was a near 7-foot athletic marvel who was still growing into his body. It was easy to see what he could be, but before they got there, the Bucks had to figure out what he was. And in his first 2 seasons, they didn't have much luck with that. They started by playing him at small forward as a rookie, and the results were inconclusive. Sometimes he flashed, and sometimes he seemed lost, but time and time again, his downhill momentum impressed everyone. Whenever he got going towards the rim, everyone else faded into the background. No one could keep up with him, and his arms were long enough to reach over any rim protector that challenged him. So the next year, the Bucks moved him to shooting guard. The hope was that by getting Giannis the ball on the perimeter, he would have better access to driving lanes, and to some extent, that was true. He started all but 10 games. His averages nearly doubled in every major category. They'd lose in a tough first-round series against the Bulls, but it was a step forward, but they still weren't sure about his position. His numbers had gone up, but he couldn't shoot, and that was problematic for the team's spacing. In his 3rd year, head coach Jason Kidd started moving him around again. He was at power forward one game, then small forward the next, then back at the 2. It was whatever the specific matchup called for, but in the meantime, the team just got worse. It was the same story for the 3rd year in a row. Some nights, he looked like the future of basketball, and some nights, he was an offensive afterthought. But in February, Kidd had a radical idea. Instead of sitting him on the wing or putting him on the block, the Bucks were going to run Giannis at the 1. Obviously, point forwards already existed. LeBron was well into his career, and there were more and more oversized ball handlers showing up in each draft. But this felt crazy. Giannis wasn't your typical point forward because he wasn't a typical forward. He was something closer to a futuristic face-up 4, a bruising force of nature who could cover the length of the court in 5 steps. Putting someone like that at de facto point guard felt wrong, dangerous even, like it would destabilize the foundation of the basketball world. But Milwaukee did it anyways, and it sort of worked. With more responsibility on his shoulders, Giannis's game improved rapidly. He was finding teammates quicker, getting to the rim more often, and constantly staying involved. Sadly, it didn't change anything. The team continued to regress and ended up missing the playoffs entirely. The results of the experiment were mixed at best, but on the bright side, It looked like they had their future star figured out. Across the league, the myth of a 6'11" point guard kept growing as the highlights flooded social media, and late in the year, Jason Kidd came out and told the media that Giannis was going to be the point guard for next season. But next year, the position listed beside Giannis Antetokounmpo on the roster was small forward, the same position he played in his rookie season. 3 seasons, 3 different roles, a backslide back into the lottery, and positional clarity was as elusive as ever. Whatever you choose to call this, it wasn't a success.
Michael Jordan played 15 years, won 6 championships. The other 9 years was a failure? That's what you're telling me? No, I'm asking you a question. Yes or no?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, exactly. So why you asking me that question?
Over the next couple years, the leap they were expecting never happened. Instead, a leap they would have never dared to dream of took place. Regardless of his official position, Giannis grew into a true point forward. He wasn't defending point guards, and sometimes another player took the ball up the floor, but he was still their primary offensive decision maker and engine, and he was fueling the attack by getting to the basket more than anyone else in basketball. No one could keep up with him athletically, and thanks to his experiment at point guard, he was able to weaponize his pace in new ways. He was dropping the ball off to bigs and finding shooters when the paint collapsed, adapting to the defense on the fly like a true point guard would. And then there was the defense. With each season, his instincts were growing more and more refined, and soon enough, they'd meld with his otherworldly physical attributes to create the best defender in the world. He made his first All-Star appearance and won the Most Improved Player of the Year award in 2017, and 2 years later, he won his first MVP. Then in 2020, he made it back-to-back MVPs with a DPOY for good measures. There was only one issue. The Bucks hadn't won a championship. Sure, they'd had some playoff success. In 2019, they were up 2-0 against the Raptors in the conference finals, but then Toronto put Kawhi Leonard on Giannis, and the Bucks offense came to a screeching halt. Next year, the Heat put Bam Adebayo on him and built a wall around the rim every time he drove, and the result was basically the same. He had 2 MVPs and no finals appearances to show for it, and pretty soon, the narrative changed. As impressive as the regular season awards were, Giannis's game wasn't all that nuanced. He didn't have a wide array of dribble moves or a reliable jump shot. Most of the time, the unique level of rim pressure he put on defenses overshadowed that, but in the playoffs, when teams had extra time to game plan for one opponent, his play style started to seem too limited. 2021 had to be different. The Bucks added Drew Holiday in the offseason. Chris Middleton had developed into a legitimate co-star. There were no potential excuses anymore. He either ended this postseason by standing on a stage, or James Harden's infamous run and dunk synopsis would haunt Giannis for the rest of his career.
You know, but I wish I could just run and with 7 feet and run and just dunk. Like, that takes no skill at all. I gotta actually learn how to play basketball and how to have skill.
He needed to prove he was actually the best player in the world, not just make the media believe it. This time, there was no regular season awards, but the playoff run got off to a solid start. They took down the scrappy Heat team who sent them home last year in 4 games, but the Nets were up next, and they were polar opposites of scrappy because they didn't need to be. Brooklyn was loaded with star power, 3 of the greatest offensive talents in league history, all close to the prime of their careers. No one was picking the Bucks. Not at the beginning of the series, and not when they tied it up at 2 games apiece. Even with Kyrie Irving out and James Harden hampered with an injury, franchise legends were publicly doubting Milwaukee.
Do you think that this Bucks team, the way it is now, do you think that this team is capable of winning a title?
No, I don't. KD would kill those guys, man.
In fairness, Kareem was half right. Kevin Durant was playing out of his mind, and he continued doing so. In Game 5, he dropped a near 50-point triple-double on 23 shots to bring Brooklyn 1 game away from advancing. But just like he always did, Giannis responded. He came through with a 30-point, 17-rebound night of his own. And then we had a Game 7. 2 two of the biggest stars in the game with one game to decide the series, and both of them delivered in every way imaginable. But after all the drama and one toe on the line, the Bucks were moving on to the Eastern Conference Finals, and 6 games later, they were on to the finals. He hadn't learned how to shoot overnight, and his handle hadn't transformed either. He was doing what he always did, but better, bursting through lanes, warping defenses, and anticipating things a moment quicker than everyone else. Everything you'd expect from a former point guard in a center's body. And after falling down 0-2 in the finals, the same script played out. Giannis Antetokounmpo delivered iconic performance after iconic performance en route to a comeback that will live on forever. There was no doubt this time. He'd brought an NBA championship back to Milwaukee for the first time in half a century. This was the most successful moment for the franchise in decades. That made this an unequivocal success. But at the same time, it changed the view of the 3 years that came before it because of one question we can't answer. Does Giannis develop the same way if he doesn't play point guard for that 33-win Bucks team? We can't say yes or no with any degree of certainty, but in our opinions, no. He doesn't turn into the same player without the experience with that degree of freedom. 2021 was what it was, at least partially because of 2016 and all the years that came after. That means retroactively, 2016 might not have been a failure after all.
It's a wrong question. There's no failure in sports. You know, there's good days, bad days. Some days you are able to be successful, some days you're not. Some days it's your turn, some days it's not your turn. And that's what sports is about. You don't always win.
After 2021, it felt like the Bucks were going to rule the East for years. The core of Giannis Antetokounmpo, Jrue Holiday, and Chris Middleton was locked down, and the roster around them was solid to great across the board. People expected one more title out of this group at the minimum, and as crushing as it was, a 2022 second-round loss at the hands of the Celtics didn't change anything. They weren't going to win it every year, and that was fine. Most champions don't repeat anyways. All they had to do was respond, and in the regular season, they did. Milwaukee won 58 games and locked down the first seed in the East, while Giannis averaged over 30 points a game. The first round was supposed to be a fun trip down memory lane. They were playing the 2023 Miami Heat, which we all assumed was a dysfunctional version of the team they beat 2 years ago. Unfortunately, that Heat team was fueled by the spirit of Tony Montana speaking through the body of Eric Spoelstra. Jimmy Butler tanked Jrue Holiday's defensive reputation in one series. And on top of that, in Game 1, Giannis suffered a lower back contusion that would bother him for the rest of that series. Looking back at it now, that loss was surprisingly explainable. A critical injury against one of the best 8th seeds we've ever seen is a pretty devastating combination, but when it happened, it felt fatal. That was 2 consecutive seasons of regression after an accomplishment that was supposed to kick off a golden age. Something had to be done.
I think their moment has come and gone as presently constructed.
Me too.
I think there are pieces that you need to get around Giannis.
That offseason, with the pressure of expectations breathing down their necks, the Bucks went all in. They traded Jrue Holiday, Grayson Allen, 3 pick swaps, and 1 unprotected first for Damian Lillard, and the basketball world experienced a mild earthquake. Everyone thought this duo would balance each other out perfectly. Giannis was going to fix all of Lillard's defensive problems, and Lillard would give the Bucks the perimeter threat they needed this whole time. But when they got on the floor together, it looked weird. They got off to a 30-13 start. At their best, Giannis and Lillard were individually elite. Giannis looked uncomfortable in the pick and roll, and Dame wasn't used to constantly playing off ball. That's when Doc Rivers orchestrated a soft coup and took over the team. But things didn't get any better. The Bucks went 17-19 under Rivers, and right before the playoffs, Giannis went down with a calf injury. Without him, they lost in 6 to the Pacers. And while that was undeniably disappointing, it was chalked up to bad luck and a rushed timeline. Damian Lillard didn't even get a training camp with the team. With one full offseason together, they'd figure it out, right? They even took some, well, we'll call them extremely questionable preventive measures and got younger by trading Chris Middleton for Kyle Kuzma. But the exact same thing happened anyway, only this time, it was the other star who got hurt. The Bucks season ended in Indiana. Lillard tore his Achilles in the series, and Tyrese Halliburton's dad taunted Giannis on the floor as the Pacers arena played All I Do Is Win 15 years years after it was cool. Next year, they waived Lillard to let him return to Portland. Giannis missed most of the year with various injuries. Trade rumors took over All-Star Weekend storylines, and the team won 32 games total.
Sources tell me a trade and a resolution is coming for the Milwaukee Bucks with Giannis Antetokounmpo before the NBA draft on Tuesday night.
It was over, and we all knew it. But of course it dragged on for a little longer in the form of cryptic posts and more rumors that never came into reality until this past week. At 9 o'clock on June 22nd, the Giannis Antetokounmpo era came to a close, announced by a wave of jersey swaps straight out of the nightmare of every citizen of Milwaukee. The most beloved star in franchise history is officially playing for the 8th seed who arguably started this spiral. So relative to expectations and context, was this era a failure? For Giannis, absolutely not. He put up numbers we haven't seen since Wilt Chamberlain and rewrote the Bucks record books. Organizationally, maybe. There were some ill-advised moves along the way, and they certainly didn't get the results they were hoping for. But can we really blame them for betting on a Damian Lillard-Giannis pairing, or for losing to the 2023 Miami Heat? From our perspective, it's tough to fault them too severely, but the more we think about it, the more we can't help but feel like Giannis had a point. Those are the wrong questions. It didn't end well, and no matter how rose-colored the glasses get, that won't ever change. But there was always moments. Stretches like the 2024 in-season tournament, where Giannis and Dame looked like they were playing together for years. Or Game 1 against the Pacers that same year, when Chris Middleton looked like the Chris Middleton, and the idea that they were one healthy Greek superstar away didn't seem so ridiculous. That many years with a once-in-a-lifetime talent can't be neatly distilled into a yes or no question like it was a failure. So we settled on a different one. 10 years from now, when someone asks you what it was like to watch Giannis Antetokounmpo play in Milwaukee, how vivid will those memories be, and how will you describe them?
So 50 years from 1971 to 2021 that we didn't win a championship, it was 50 years of failures? No, it was not. It was steps to it, and we were able to win one. Hopefully we can win another one.